Everything was peaceful. Until it wasn't.
The war filled the land of devastation with people looking for ways to cope.
Welcome to Drip's Daily Podcast, where we discuss many different time periods in history. Today we'll be discussing modernism with a few special guests. So, Priest, life must have really changed after the war, hasn't it?
Of course it has. Now there are these new cities with magnificent buildings, and yet I continue to see horrible weapons on the streets. What's worse is that they're only getting more and more dangerous each day.
Rinaldi, why do you think morale was so low even after an Allied victory?
Some of the horrors I saw, such as killing our own allies in ignorance, have become bloody wounds that cannot be healed, and just the sadness of loss fills the air. These feelings can be attributed to many pieces of literature during this time period.
So, Frederick, what would you define modernism as?
Modernism, the socially progressive trend that affirms the power of human beings.
Hello, Catherine. Obviously, people still loved each other throughout the war, but did you sense that something changed after the war, as many couples had previously encountered horrors?
Honestly, Frederick and I would drink a lot. It was a way to forget our pain, forget the garbage that our elders taught us. Voltaire, Montesquieu, all those Enlightenment thinkers, damn them. They don't bring back the fallen, but only fill our heads with the nonsense.
Wow, I didn't know you had beef with those guys. Rinaldi, if I were a commoner in the streets during the 1920s, what would I be most attracted to? Well, that was interesting. Let's talk about why you're here. I hear that you all are part of an interesting new novel. What was it called?
A Farewell to Arms, a classic modernist book.
So, Catherine, during this massive change from before the war to after the war, there must have been some artistic movements as well that must have been very impactful.
Dadaism was an anti-aesthetic and nihilistic movement in the arts. Cubism was a highly influential visual art style of the 20th century, and one of its most notable artists was Pablo Picasso. The Cubist style emphasized the flat, two-dimensional surface of the picture plane, rejecting the traditional techniques of perspective, modeling, and refuting time-honored theories that art should imitate nature.
Let us all not forget about Futurism and Surrealism as well. Both of these movements rejected previous traditional standards and made new art that was very abstract. Now let's discuss one of the most key scenes in the book. Frederick, you were blown up while having a nice dinner. What were you thinking, and how does it apply to the book in general?
Life is so meaningless. All I see is war, death, and destruction around me. People are constantly dying, and I can't seem to find my purpose in it. Ooh, cheese!
Well, Sid, I wasn't thinking about much. However, after the event, I realized that there was no truth in this book. Even when I'm confined to my own space and comfort, there's always something that can sneak up on you. That is what I see in many modernist stories like my own. There simply is nothing that is true in this world.
Wow, that was a really informed response. Now, Catherine, is there a way that modernists perceived love, and in what mediums can we find this message?
The role of love in modernism can be seen in popular literary modernist books such as those of Fitzgerald and Hemingway. Love represents the erosion of social values and leads to isolation and the impossibility of finding true love.
Now, priest, along with authority in political life, I expect that sometimes people would question religion in times of such horrors. How is religion affected by this period?
Religion, in modernist views, can be represented more in the immanent rather than the transcendent. For example, rather than God being an entity, it is shown through me, the priest, and instead of heaven being shown, it is shown through the Abruzzi, which is a place on earth.
Now, I thought I had a decent understanding on how nature was shown in this period, but I would like you to see if this statement was correct.
Modernists believe that nature shaped human creativity.
Well, you are technically correct. However, there are more than just that. Like the end of this book, authors would use nature and weather to have deep emotional value.
So, Rinaldi, you seem like a very avid modernist, so I wanted to ask you this question. What do people internally feel about themselves as a human on this earth during modernism?
Modernist view of man is one of introspection and self-reflection. This is shown through the many literary works and art movements that went on throughout the period. In A Farewell to Arms, Frederick Henry demonstrates this view when he goes from an apathetic man to a caring husband.
One of the trends that I saw in this book was the increasing amount of irony, as shown in the next scene. But is this just something that Hemingway uses, or is this something that we can see in many other authors?
This stylistic trend is something that Hemingway and the others love to utilize. It provides the reader with many contradictions, as us modernists believe that there isn't any truth in this world and that these events must be analyzed logically.
A lot of people have considered you to be the hero in this book. Tragic, but still a hero. Would you consider yourself as a hero in this book and a hero in terms of the modernist era in general?
A lot to take in. Me, a hero. However, in this time period, I would like to think that I am. I am nothing special. However, like other heroes in my era, I take an intense personal journey to find inner happiness. Material gain is nothing to me, as I can live as a satisfied man.
One scene I wanted to discuss was this one.
Traitor!
What truly prompted you to make this decision? And looking back on it, do you have any regrets or anything like that?
None at all. Like most of my comrades, I was going to be executed. Instead of going with authority and honor, I would take my chances with the river any day of the week, as long as I'm free. I'm sure others in my position would have done the same.
Well, I see your points about what modernism is, but I'm having trouble seeing where it differentiates from previous time periods. Is there any way that we can completely show this difference?
Should I have faith in God?
Yes, absolutely. If you follow the moral teachings of God, you will live a long, good, and fulfilling life.
Should I have faith in God?
Faith, what is faith? I wish I had it, I'm so tired.
Priest, how would you go about finding a woman?
You have to find someone that you are willing to serve, and you have to love your family.
Yeah. Alright, Rinaldi, how would you go about getting a woman?
I suggest going to one of the houses.
Priest, how should I live my life?
Be the best you can be. Do not drink, and always put others before yourself.
Rinaldi, what would you say is the best lifestyle?
The best life consists of having fun, partying, and drinking alcohol.
What authors should I look for if I'm looking for books about modernism or that are in a period of modernism?
Perhaps the most notable writers of their time for modernism were F. Scott Fitzgerald and Ernest Hemingway.
If I'm also looking for specific titles and not just famous authors, what are some popular titles from this period?
Some of the most popular modernist books include Ulysses, The Waste Land, To the Lighthouse, Knighthood, and The Great Gatsby.
I want to thank all of you guys so much for coming out and joining my podcast today. Please, to the audience, please go check out their book, A Farewell to Arms. It is very good and very touching. And I'll see you guys next time when we discuss communism.